We're living in an era and a country of unprecedented disposable income. Yet 70% of us worry about money. Our basic cost of living in Australia are at their lowest level as a proportion of income, yet our savings rate is as low as it's ever been. When we ask people to estimate their monthly expenses and then compare it to what they actually spend through their bank accounts, most underestimate by at least 30%. My wife and I had the same problem until we discovered that with a minimum 5 bank accounts spread across at least 2 banks, managing money became easy. Whereas less than 5 bank accounts across less than 2 banks makes managing money and sticking to a budget really hard. And this is based on psychology rather than maths, because when it comes to money, psychology always trumps maths. Hi, my name's Max Phelps and I'm a money coach with Golden Eggs, where we're on a mission to help people stop worrying about money and get on the path to financial freedom. Now, budgets and budgeting seem to have developed some sort of negative connotation these days. Yet whether at home or at work, we all have a budget. If you think you don't have a budget, then ask yourself, why haven't you bought a Tesla or a private jet this month? Like most people, we used to spend most of our income, and therefore our budget was our income. The worst thing about that was that over time, as we got promotions, bonuses, or pay rises, we simply increased our spending to match, leaving us no better off than when we were young and broke. Yet most of us can be good at saving for a short period of time when we're saving up for something, like a holiday, a wedding, to buy a home. The key insight here is that budgeting without goals just feels stingy. Goal setting needs to start with relationships and family, because our other needs, especially for a home, which is our most expensive expense, depends on our situation. If you're single and looking for a partner, your property needs will change. If you have kids together, they'll change again. And if the kids grow into teenagers, they'll change again. And even without kids, adding pets will impact our needs. We found that using words like maybe or possibly before a goal lets us plan for it without feeling like it's set in stone or we'd be devastated if it didn't happen. Then we can move through the other goals like a home, investment properties, holidays, big events, and other big things. But having big plans and a budget isn't any good if we can't stick to it. And this is how a typical conversation goes when I ask people about money. How are you at managing your money? Pretty good, I think. Well, not bad anyway. Well, how much do you spend each month not counting rent or mortgage? Around $3,000? Okay, and how much do you earn? Around $10,000 between us after tax. How much is your rent or your mortgage? That's $2,500 a month. So that means you're spending $5,500 and you're saving $4,500 or $54,000 a year. How much are you really saving each month? Well, we try to save $2,000. Okay, you said try. Do you sometimes spend some of that? Yes, we sometimes dip into it for things like holidays or at Christmas or on car rego. So how much higher are your savings now compared to a year ago? Oh, that's a hard one. Maybe $10,000 or $15,000? So you earn $10,000, your rent is $2,500, and your real savings are less than $1,500? So really you're spending $6,000 a month and not $3,000. Oh, well, maybe that's just because last year we went on holiday before lockdown and we got a dog and bought some new furniture. The numbers are different for each couple, but the conclusions are similar. First, we underestimate our spending. Second, we confuse saving for our future with saving to spend. And thirdly, when we go off track, we focus on the big items of expenditure to try and explain the difference. In my experience, it's the little things that get us, and there are too many of them to add up and realize what we're doing. Most months, it's the $100, $20 to $30 items that cause the blowout, not the big things. Let's take the example of searching in the cupboard or fridge for something to eat versus spending $30 on Uber Eats. The $30 spend seems relatively easy compared to thinking about what to cook and searching for the ingredients, but can we afford it? Well, if we use a credit card, then every small purchase decision like this is automatically approved. So we should be okay, right? If we pay our bill in full each month, that's okay, isn't it? We'll come back to this later, but you'll start to realize that it probably isn't okay, or we simply don't have enough information to figure it out at the time that we're making the decision. Now, if we use a debit card linked to an account where our pay lands and the balance in it is, say, $800, well, then that should be okay, right? We could go through all the pending direct debits and discover that this particular $30 right before when the electric and phone bills are both due is going to give us a problem. But that seems as hard as going through the fridge, so we probably won't bother. Never mind that the electricity bill has a 20% pay on time bonus that means we'll have an extra $60 to pay because the direct debit got missed. That's the cost of electricity and being badly organised, not the cost of the Uber Eats, right? Now suppose that instead of that, you had an everyday spending account separate from your bills and you knew that every cent in that account was okay to spend. Checking that balance is really quick, and either you've got the $30 and it's okay to get the Uber Eats, or only $25 and you need to order one less dish or get mains without the rice. At least you know that tomorrow you're definitely eating at home and you need to mentally prepare for it. The 5-2 system helps us to get to that level of day-to-day decision making where you instantly know if it's okay to spend or not. And you don't have to waste time thinking about it or studying your finances in detail every time you want to spend $30. It's based on mine and my wife Kelly's journey of managing our personal finances over the last 30 years together. When we first started out, we did what most Australians do and opened up one bank account, one savings account, and a credit card. As I later found out, that's just about the worst way we could have set ourselves up from a psychological perspective. We had kids really young and we were terrible at saving. There was always a reason why this month we spent a bit more than we thought. It could be the kids' school shoes or the car rego, or it was something else that meant we spent a bit more this month. Of course, we only looked at the bigger things and never dived into the detail. The other problem is that I was raised in a family of 9 kids as a tight ass, whereas Kelly is more of a shopaholic, which caused constant tension and arguments. But luckily for us, something changed. The multinational I was working for posted me overseas to Thailand. Suddenly, I was getting paid half my income back in Australia and half in Thailand. It always seemed like too much faff and hassle to move money between countries. So we became amazing at saving and just lived on the money that we had access to in Thailand. We lived for 4 years in Thailand and Vietnam, and then I left the multinational to become a high school maths teacher. So it's very hard for me to say that psychology trumps maths, but it's true. Now my salary was a lot lower, but by then we'd learned that it was better to separate our money out, and we started investing in property. After 2 years, we moved back to Australia and found that I couldn't teach due to the UK qualification not being accepted here. I needed to earn a living but wanted to stay involved with property, so I thought I'd try mortgage broking. Now, as a mortgage broker, I started to look at the detailed finances of hundreds of other people and had lots of the conversations like the one earlier. It was very easy to spot the people that were great at saving. They had the huge deposits for their first home and were able to pay off properties much more quickly. They consistently had multiple bank accounts set up in a similar way to the way we do now. The ones that were really bad at saving typically had one bank account, one savings account, and a credit card. I also realised that it wasn't about income or motivation, which was only short-lived. People could be very motivated to save for short periods, to live with their parents or live on baked beans and noodles. But after buying their first home, they'd revert back to spending all the money they could access. When we give ourselves access to our whole pay through our bank account or credit card, then the more we earn, the more we spend. We realized if people put in place the right structures, then anyone can learn to be good with money the way Kelly and I are now. And so I started coaching this to others. Now we'll get the visual up so that you can see the 5 accounts. The first separation is to have 2 transaction accounts. One for bills that our pay goes into and is used to distribute money automatically to the other accounts. Bills are easy to estimate for the year, but are highly variable per pay cycle. Think about your own nightmare month, where everything seems to hit at once. Next is the everyday account for all the things we do weekly, like groceries, lunches, coffee, Uber Eats, and anything else variable and routine. Going back to when I used to get paid monthly, there always seemed to be too much month left at the end of the money. Most people that get paid monthly run out after about 3 weeks, and that leaves them broke in the 4th week or using a credit card, and 5 weeks months just make your heads explode. Psychologists have done studies where they give one group, say $250 a week, and another group $1,000 to last for 4 weeks. The group getting the weekly allowance reported feeling less stressed and all had money in their account after 4 weeks. The 4-weekly group almost all ran out early and reported feeling stressed about money. Now that we've separated our bills where we get paid into from our everyday account, we can choose when to transfer the money, and obviously weekly will lead to less stress and make things easier for us. Anyone can cruise through 2 to 3 days in an occasional week when they run out of money, but coping with a whole week or 10 days in a fortnight would be a nightmare. Importantly, it now means that we've either got the $30 for our Uber Eats tonight or we haven't, because maybe we had a big week on the groceries, but next week it might be okay. Budgeting doesn't mean always saying no to something. It just means knowing whether saying yes will break the budget or it'll be okay. Next, we split savings into at least 3 to allow us to differentiate between real savings for our future and saving up to spend later. The future account is where we save a deposit for our first home or investments, or to buy and pay off appreciating assets. Next is holidays, which tend to have a 1 to 3 year time horizon depending on the scale of holiday that we're thinking of. And the last we call fun, because it describes more fun things like gadgets, clothes, gifts, weekends away and beauty treatments. It's typically viewed over 1 to 3 months, but we manage it monthly. Once we grasp the concept of saving to spend, we can add additional accounts for cars, weddings, Christmas, or other important goals. Without separating our future from our holidays, people tend to do one of 2 things. They either don't take a holiday because they're so focused on saving, or when they do take a holiday, they spend way too much without realizing the impact on their future. Again, this is psychology. There's a great book called Happy Money by psychologists Dunn and Norton. They tell us that we get pleasure from holidays in 3 separate times. The first is when we're planning for the holiday, looking forward to it and booking it, the excitement of going away. The second time is, of course, on the holiday. We're enjoying ourselves, relaxing, engaging with other people, seeing interesting stuff, or whatever the holiday is focused on. The third is after the holiday's finished, when we're reminiscing and telling the stories of our holidays, the things we did, the things we saw, the people we met, the things that went wrong. Now, when we used to take holidays, we'd never have quite enough in savings, so we used the credit card. And then we weren't really looking forward to the holiday as much because we felt a bit anxious about not having enough. Then we put it on the credit card at the last minute so that we could try and manage the billing cycle. Then when we went on the holiday, we felt like every cent was just adding to our debt, so it made for a worse holiday. After the holidays were finished, when we were reminiscing and telling the stories, we ended up feeling guilty about the credit card hangover. With a separate holiday account, we get pleasure from all 3 times without the guilt and money worries and without spending our future savings. So what if we had all of these 5 accounts with one bank? What would happen if we ran out of money in the everyday and fun accounts? We want the $30 Uber Eats right now, right? Well, we'd love to think that we'd be controlled and say, I've run out of money, therefore I shall not spend more. But we're human. We go on our phones and see if we can move money from somewhere else. We'll think, it'll be fine, we'll move it back later. If all those 5 accounts are with the same bank, then at the point when we see the dreaded decline symbol, it's tap, 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 and we can get the Uber Eats or whatever we were about to overspend on. And you might say, well, I wouldn't do that. I'm fine. I know how to be responsible. And that might be true right now, depending on your and your partner's money personality. But don't forget, we're not sane, rational and sober 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We all have our little moments. Maybe a little drunk. Maybe the up version of ourselves when we get really excited about something. Or the really low version of ourselves when we're just looking to try and cheer ourselves up. We need to set ourselves up to succeed by making it really hard for us to fail. And we do this by using one bank for variable spending like the everyday and fun stuff. We can transfer money between those two and that's fine. But once they're both empty, we need to stop spending. But don't worry, there's more money coming in a couple of days from the weekly transfer. The other accounts need to not just be with another bank, but be with one that doesn't do instant transfers into the spending bank. Now you'll notice on the picture it shows that we have the fun money monthly. Again, this is to do with psychology, not with maths, because it doesn't really matter whether we get paid fortnightly or weekly, because our brains work really well on calendars. So if I ask you what's happening in February, it's really easy for you to think, February, that's Valentine's Day or that's someone's birthday or we're going to a concert. The first of the month is a good day for automatic payments because every month has a first. Before that money lands, you're already thinking and potentially getting excited about what it's for, like looking forward to the holiday. It also prompts us to think over the course of a year. If I know that I'm going to have 3 months in a row of birthdays in March, April and May, maybe in February I might spend a bit less to leave more for those months. If you've got a month where nothing much is happening or coming up, well, that's when you buy your clothes or your gadgets or other things that you might have postponed in the months when there was other priorities. Budgeting is just about making choices. It's not forcing us to spend as little as possible. It's just setting a level that works with all the other priorities for our life and then putting in place a system to stick to it. As human beings, we'll find creative ways of getting what we want using the resources we have available. Maybe we'll have a big week on the groceries this week and don't go out for dinner. But next week, we'll be a bit tighter on the groceries so that we can have a bit of a splurge or do something else. What matters is that we don't try and spend the same money 2 or 3 times because we'd forgotten where we're up to. And that takes us back to credit cards. Where do credit cards fit in? And the answer is they don't. The reason credit cards don't fit in is because they give us permission to spend money that we haven't even earned yet. We talked before about tapping the cards and finding that we've got no money and not being able to transfer it from somewhere else. Well, a credit card instantly gives us access to our entire income for the next month. Walking around with that in your wallet is just a really bad idea. We encourage people to not have them in their wallets or linked to their phones. One trick that we use is to keep a credit card in the car. Psychologically, it lets us know that we had that money for when we used to fill up with petrol or something. Imagine this scenario that happened to me a couple of times. I went into the shop to buy something, tapped my debit card, and it says declined because I'd run out of money in my everyday account. So I said, hang on a second, I've got a credit card in the car, I'll be back in a minute. Now, when I said that, I had every intention of coming back up. But we've created a gap to give us time to think. And on the way down to the car, I started thinking, yeah, I'm not sure I should be using the card. It was suddenly easier to get in the car and just drive off than it was to go back up to the store. On the other hand, I've also been in a situation where I've had to pay for a physio bill. We have an allowance for the year in our bills account for things like physios, doctors, dentists. And I've had a treatment, gone to the counter afterwards and realised there was no money on my debit card. I just said, I've got the card in the car, I'll be back in a minute. Went to the car, grabbed the credit card, came back in and paid. Now, two questions I get here is, firstly, what about my points? Yes, I know we can get credit card points and I know we can get free trips and flight upgrades. But most of those things happen from the 50,000 free points we get when we sign up. Most of us using a credit card all the time don't earn anywhere near enough points to make it worthwhile. A psychology study was done where people were asked how big their credit card bill would be. When they opened their bills, they were out by an average of 30%. And that's consistent with what we saw earlier. If an average credit card bill is $4,000 for the month, then we'd be out by $1,200 versus what we thought. If we used a debit card, we might have only spent $2,800. $1,200 a month is over $14,000 a year, and yet $4,000 a month on a credit card would only give us 48,000 points. The math says we could get a free economy return ticket from Sydney to Bundaberg, but the psychology says that we could get 2 business class return tickets to Europe with the money we save by not using the credit card to earn our free trip to Bundaberg. The safest option is not use the credit card at all. But if you really are a points junkie and you're trying to wean yourself off, then do a 3-month trial using the credit card just for bills and keeping it in the car as an emergency. The second question is, surely I'm better off putting all my money in an offset account and taking the bank's money for 55 days interest free? Well, let's check the maths. If the credit card bill was $4,000, then it could be sitting in an offset account, saving a few percent. Even at 3%, that's only $120 a year or $10 a month, putting at risk of overspending by $14,000. Again, psychology trumps maths. Now that's the 5-2 Money Diet, and although 5 is the minimum, most couples we coach end up with 7 or 8 bank accounts because they want an everyday account each. If both are shopaholics, maybe a fun account each, maybe a Christmas account, maybe a new car account. The more we separate out our money, the easier we find it is to manage. Everything gets pushed aside and automated, so we stop worrying about our future or paying our bills. We just focus on the weekly account, every cent of which is okay to spend. And then the fun accounts as a release to spend completely guilt-free. Now that you know the basics, our experience tells us that around 10% of people will go out and make the changes straight away. Another 10% will simply dismiss this as not applying to them, and if they're a genuine tight ass or both in the couple are, they're probably right. The rest of us need some help and guidance to find out how it applies to our personal situation. Our money coaching program comes in 3 options. First is the online app, and this is the cheap do-it-yourself option for free. Simply click the sign up button and then it'll take you through your goals first, then the money personalities and how that might work with your partner, and then your estimated budget at a top level. You'll be able to print out a list of transfers to make between accounts once you've set them up. Second is the paid in-app upgrade, which lets you dive into the detail of your income, bills, and other accounts and store them to make updates easier as your life changes. We'll throw in free email support because our team always wants to help people get ahead. Now, this does cost $300, but it's billed at $25 a month for 12 months. Full money coaching is the third option, is aimed at couples earning over $8,000 a year after tax, around $140,000 before tax, and is especially good if you're shopaholics, or if one of you is a tight ass with some friction in the relationship. Now, we've been averaging a 10 times return on investment for clients. And that means if you've got around 10 times more in savings at the end of the year, then you paid us for our time to set it up. A trained professional will help you with the tools, design an account structure based on your short-term, long-term goals, the unique dynamics of each couple, and then help work out how much goes into each account, the timing and which bank cards to carry around and use, and then hold you accountable using a monitoring tool. This is a one-off fee of $2,200, but includes the 12 months access to the paid version of the app. We've been using this system ourselves for 15 years and coaching it in its manual form for 7 years. The worst part about it from our perspective is within 3 months, you'll find sticking to your budget is so normal that when we ask you how it's going, you'll be confused at suddenly having to think about money when everything is on autopilot. The great thing for us is that you'll be awesome mortgage clients in the future with bigger deposits, predictable expenses, and goals that we simply help you reach by getting the extra funds you need from whichever lender is appropriate. So what are you waiting for? Click the sign up button to see the options and make your choice. Thanks for watching, and give me a like if you've enjoyed this video. My name is Max Phelps, and always remember to be genuine, have fun, and always stay curious.